followed last Sunday by their finest hour. In Mexico City, missing crucial players, playing a man down for most of the match, the USA turned in the most professional and uplifting result of their qualifying. A golden point, Steve Sampson called it, the first ever for the USA in Mexico City. Meaning a win today against Canada would erase virtually all doubt that the red, white, and blue are going next summer to France.
Tell you how proud I am of you and the discipline and the togetherness that you guys showed today. But now it's very important that we keep this for the next 2 matches. Huh? Don't destroy this by not doing exactly the same thing against Canada.
That was last Sunday. This Sunday, the U.S. national team is in Canada. World Cup qualifying on ESPN2. From Vancouver, the USA against the Canadian national team. And good afternoon. Welcome to British Columbia. I'm Bob Lee. 3 things must occur for the USA to qualify this afternoon for the World Cup finals. One's already happened. Mexico, Costa Rica, they played to a draw. If Jamaica can at least draw with El Salvador in El Salvador, that's the second part of the puzzle. And the USA must defeat Canada. The standings at this moment in CONCACAF show the USA continuing in 3rd place on 11 points. Jamaica in front with 12. Costa Rica has moved up to 4th place. But basically, Seamus Malin, the reason the United States is in this enviable position of maybe wrapping it up today, last week's great draw against Mexico.
Well, and last week, individual agendas were put on a very distant back burner. And the team discipline and team cohesion very much was the order of the day. And there were some terrific performances by players to meet that goal. Chief among them, Eric Winalda, who played on the left side of midfield, did a terrific job in one-on-one situations attacking, but also was wonderful at tracking back and covering up some space. In addition, Joe Max Moore played in the front of the defensive midfield and helped up front as well, but basically ran his legs off for the United States. Today he'll be in that same position, but he'll be looking to go up front and help out Roy Wegerle and maybe get some goals against the slow Canadian defenders. And finally, Tom Dooley, the aging veteran, but who looked the youngest player on the park against Mexico, covering all that ground in front of the defensive back two. He was enormous in that game. We look for his leadership today.
Thomas Dooley, because of a yellow card suspension with John Harkes, will wear the captain's armband today. His leadership will be critical as this team tries to do something they've not done in qualifying, follow one strong effort with another strong effort.
Well, Tom Dooley, when pressed for a word to describe what I think is most important about soccer, is togetherness. And we expect to see him today continue that emphasis on togetherness among this team to get the result they want. Well,
the red, white, and blue have their fate in their hands today at Swangard Stadium. Sam's Army has crossed the border. We've got a fair number of Yanks on hand. The lineups are next. A Sunday afternoon in British Columbia. World Cup qualifying soccer at intimate Swangard Stadium. About 8,000 on hand. This match has been a sellout for some time. When we showed you what happened in the locker room following the match in Mexico City, a very emotional victory for head coach Steve Sampson and the U.S. national team. And he and Clive Charles know that if the pieces fall correctly today, they could qualify for France. The USA starting lineup.
That is in accordance with FIFA regulations. Once again, if you are standing on the track, please take your seat immediately.
The lineup for the United States will have Brad Friedel in goal. There has been an injury to Casey Keller. He's been working on it. He's 100% fit now, but he's not game ready. So he goes with Brad Friedel in goal. So a bit of maybe a surprise, but given this great game against Mexico, perhaps not. There you see the back four also for the United States. And look at this up front. Finally, MLS fans will be really happy to see this. Preki at last gets a start, having come off the bench as a role player only in the past.
And unavailable today for the U.S., Tab Ramos, Jeff Agus, and John Harkes missing in action, the Canadian starting lineup.
And also missing in action for them, Craig Forrest, their normal goalkeeper. You see Paul Dolan is the goalkeeper because Craig Forrest decided he didn't want to come and play this game. He played for West Ham United in London today and lost to Chelsea 2-1. So Dolan gets the start, but up front, the dangerous man, Alex Bunbury, who's been a very fine player for Maritimo in Portugal, will be giving a lot of offensive threat and a real threat, I should say, on Alexi Lalas.
We mentioned who's not here for the United States. As we said, Tab Ramos with the knee injury, 6 days removed from surgery. Jeff Agos with a red card against Mexico. John Hart suspended with 2 yellows. Canada also missing some players. Only 1 because of the yellow card suspension. 3 players, including normal starting keeper Craig Forrest, just didn't come back for this match. Yellow cards are a consideration. Our sideline reporter, Ty Keogh, what's the situation, Ty?
Well, thank you, Bob. Today's result's so important for the United States, but some guys have to think about next week, too, because they're playing with yellow cards. 6 of the U.S. starters, including 3 of their 4 starting defenders, are playing with yellow cards, including Alexi Lalas, Mike Burns, and Marcelo Balboa. Friedel playing with the yellow card as well. Also, Winalda and Joe Max Moore. And Joe Max Moore played such a spirited game and was an important part of that result in Mexico City last year. He's got to watch himself or he might miss that critical game against El Salvador next week because of the accumulated yellow cards.
Okay, Ty, so we'll keep an eye on that. It is a gorgeous afternoon. About 13 Celsius, which is mid-50s Fahrenheit. The pitch is 70 yards wide, 108 yards long. Our referee, John Jairo Toro Rendon from Colombia, who is known as a taskmaster along the lines of Senor Castrilli last week in Mexico City, who handed that red card to Jeff Agos. This game is starting coincidentally along with Jamaica and El Salvador in San Salvador. Already today, Mexico has drawn with Costa Rica. Rather astounding result. Mexico was up at 1.2-0, but that was a 3-3 final. The USA in white, the bench tensed. They know they may qualify today for France. And the Canadian national side in black, Paul Dolan, the keeper, gets a boot to it. Across the way, very intimate bleachers and a larger grandstand across the way on this side of the pitch. And the sun will be a factor, especially in the second half when Brad Friedel, the U.S. keeper, will be defending with a very low sun in his face. As Nash gets a boot to it, number 11, and now Alex Bunbury to Bent, touched by Reyna. Lawless gets the foot in. Joe Max Moore sent wide, and Eddie Pope skies for that. Foul against Canada, free kick U.S. As we said, with the draw against Costa Rica by Mexico, the USA is keeping an eye on that Jamaica match against El Salvador. 1 point for Jamaica, and they must win today. Would put this U.S. team through to France. Now, there are 2 ifs still hanging in the balance. Friedel is looking for Wegerle. Martin Nash looking for Bunbury. Pope sends it back. Moore. And now Wegerle tracks back, but here comes Canada. Dazovic, number 4, overrun from behind.
Overrun from behind by Eric Winalda, playing that role we just talked about at the top, coming way back and helping out.
Played it with absolute abandon and enthusiasm last week in Mexico City. If you were a fan of the North American Soccer League, you remember that man, Bob Lenarduzzi. 10 stellar campaigns with the Vancouver Whitecaps, the Canadian national coach, who may very well be out of a job following this qualifying campaign. Free kick now for the U.S. Canada has not shown well, but they're still mathematically alive. As we said, Thomas Radzinski, Craig Forrest, Paul Pesce-Solido did not even come back from Europe. And they would normally be starting in this lineup for the Canadian side. It was a turn of events that caused Alex Bunbury, the number 9 shirt in black, the leading scorer for Canada, to say he was disgusted with some of his national teammates. Into the box and into the sun where Dolan pulls it down.
No trouble for Dolan there. As you mentioned about the sun will become more of a problem, I think, in the second half. We'll see the shadows push into the field here. But not a difficult ball for him to handle there. This field is 70 yards wide, as you mentioned. It could be wider. There's more room to put this field into a 75-yard dimensions, as it has indeed been in some previous matches up here. So a choice to make it a little narrower, taken by the Canadian coach, Bob Lenarduzzi.
Mike Burns from his left back, Reyna, and touched it out. Burns starting in place of Jeff Agos. Preki starting on the right side of midfield, and as we said, Winalda on the left side of midfield. Corazine, number 12, with Balboa, and it will be a goal kick. Brad Friedel getting the start. Casey Keller did come in, has been training all week. The U.S. team trained in Portland and flew up. I should say no. Some of them may have wished they had flown up. They bussed up from Portland on Friday. And Brad Friedel, who was so strong in the nets last week, getting the start. Keller will be returning on an 8 p.m. flight tonight to London because Leicester City will be in action on Monday in the Premiership. Now Bunbury comes back for that ball. Plays with Maritimo in Portugal. Tries to send it wide to Dazovic. Number 13, Mark Watson, the right back. Looking for Corazine. Balboa wins the air battle. Flicked on by Burns, but the foul against Marcelo Balboa.
Well, Balboa looked like he got a good position there. But Corazine hit the deck. You see him jumping in there. They both challenge for it, and Corazine falls. The Colombian referee gives it. He's been very tight so far on physical contact situations for each team.
Young Martin Nash, his brother Steve Nash, the NBA rookie with the Phoenix Suns, and so sports very much a part of their life. Martin plays in England with Stockport, and this is 7th appearance for the Canadian national side. It's Balboa, and then Winalda clear it out. That's onside. Out comes Friedel. A little bit of indecision and takes it with his feet with Nash moving in on him. Jason DeVos in the air, but now the U.S. with an onside break. Wegerle in front. The turn, the shot, the goal! Claudio Reyna! Wasting no time. With France in the sights, the U.S. is broken on top.
Well, 5 minutes into the game, with the Canadian defense appealing for offside after they had broken the U.S. offside trap at the other end. Suddenly give up this dramatic early goal, just as they did in the first game when the USA beat Canada 3-0, gave up an 8th-minute goal. But this ball is played in by Reyna behind the defense, and Wegerle comes through beautifully, and Reyna will make a good run into the space and is found nicely and touches it easily around.
Joe Max Moore again with that play, getting it wide to Wegerle. And Claudio Reyna.
Well, what a great start for the U.S. and a great start for Claudio Reyna, who's been having a terrific season for Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga. He needed to play a lot, and he's now playing, and it's made a huge difference for him.
Pope lifts it out. Joe Max Moore couldn't control it. Dazovic goes down in a collision with Winalda, who's whistled for the foul. So the U.S. is on top in the 5th minute. The problem this team has had has been winning and playing consistently as a favorite. Most vividly illustrated against Jamaica, when the wheels came off with everyone healthy, with a home crowd, with the expectations.
Yeah, and this ball has become a bit of a problem. You saw Claudio Reyna complain to the referee the ball was too soft, I think. And Reyna pointed that out, and the referee checked it and agreed with him. Let's change the ball.
So Claudio Reyna, his 5th career goal for the U.S. national side. He has played in his 14th qualifier. No American player has played as much as Claudio Reyna, who has really blossomed professionally for Wolfsburg, as Lawless goes up for that one. Moore comes through. Joe Max looks for it. Reyna can't get it. Sent ahead there. Olin Miller from his midfield position.
Bob, the U.S. back four has got to be a little bit careful. They're being caught a bit flat, which means one ball through can beat 4 players.
Jason Bent, deflected by Wegerle, keeping it away from Dazovic. There was that through ball you were discussing. The flag goes up, and the foul against Canada.
Well, you got to challenge players out front so they can't push an easy ball through. But you'll see this ball goes through past Burns, and Winalda is the player who come back to check it, and had done the good job. And against Balboa, finally is over there to clear it away. But some uneasy moments here in the U.S. back four, which they'll need to get sorted out as they did against Mexico.
Bunbury on the ball now, contesting with Reyna. We play on. Mike Burns squares it off to Alexi Lalas, back in the selection last week against Mexico. Played so well, as the entire team did after Jeff Agers threw that red card. In fact, Thomas Dooley hit the post with the USM man down. Long ball, and a good one by Alexi Lalas. Winalda comes inside, crisscrossing with Joe Max Moore. He's got Dooley behind him. Thomas Dooley, the captain today. Didn't get to that. Bunbury to Dazovic. Dooley comes back to win the ball.
And so does Joe Max Moore, covering up for Eric Winalda there, who had made a central run. And Joe Max Moore read the vacancy that was left and filled it beautifully. That's the kind of teamwork that they need to keep building on.
Now, Mike Burns makes a run up the wing as Winalda sends it for him. Cut off there by Mark Watson. Lifted up by Reyna. And sent all the way back by Mark Watson to Paul Dolan, who is the #2 keeper for Canada, but played in the World Cup finals back in 1986. There's not a large drop-off from Craig Forrest to Paul Dolan in terms of goalkeeping ability.
And there's obviously a little bit more Maple Leaf commitment, if you might put it that way.
In front there is Friedel in a collision with Bunbury, and Pope comes through as that was whistled. Friedel's shaken up. And that's the reason Casey Keller did not go back to England, with Jurgen Sommer in camp training, but not dressed today.
We'll see this replay here. A good challenging jump in there, which freed the ball through, and Bunbury slipping away from Alexi Lalas on that nice deflection by, I think it was Corazine who won the header from Balboa. And the challenge on Friedel.
Casey Keller may warm up a tad. He tapes that right hand. He had a compound dislocation of his right thumb, and he has been fit throughout. Match fitness is another question. It's the left hand of Brad Friedel as the keeper of the year in Major League Soccer.
Well, there you see the ball nicely flicked through for Canada. Bunbury comes for it. Friedel bravely comes for it too, and he took a kick in the arm for his troubles. But he's back in the goal, and it's okay. Brad Friedel, I'm sure, does not want to come out of this game. I can tell you that.
Dooley touches it ahead. Moore got a foot on it. Now Preki out of his own end. Jason Bent against Preki. Jason Bent comes through to win that ball, but now the U.S. is back on it.
And once again, it was Joe Max Moore seeing where the trouble was and coming to help out as that extra defensive midfield player.
Eddie Pope from champion DC United, a long ball. Trying to lead Winalda, who again was playing centrally there, with Wegerle playing on the outside. Now the two revert to their natural positions. USA, 5th minute, Claudio Reyna, assisted by Wegerle and Joe Max Moore. USA control their own fate. It all starts with a win today. The Mexico draw with Costa Rica was the second part of the equation. That happened earlier this morning, Western Canadian time, Pacific time. And we'll be getting contemporaneous updates from San Salvador on Jamaica and El Salvador. That ball is into touch. Reminder tonight on the Deuce at 10 Eastern, right after this match, the hit list. Fidel Avendon against Floyd Weaver, our featured boxing match tonight on ESPN2. Picture book setting, an intimate Swangard Stadium where the Vancouver 86ers of the A-League play their matches in front of traditional sellouts here. Hope, a little bit of trouble there against Corazine. Mike Burns, who came on as a substitute against Mexico, played very well. Winalda, who played approximately 70 minutes at altitude as the U.S. most of the team training for the better part of 2 weeks for that match in Big Bear, California at 7,000 feet. Colin Miller, number 6. Maybe back to Dazovic. Bunbury. Watson looking for Corazine. Lays it back. Bunbury shot. Save Friedel.
Very fine play by the Canadians, particularly by Corazine, getting up in front of Lalas and dropping a ball down for Bunbury. And a nice daisy cutter, as they call that, nice shot on the ground.
We play on.
Friedel, no troubles. Wegerle not into the game that much yet. Wegerle's going to be primarily a target player, playing with the back to goal, Wegerle, but he, of course, was instrumental in the goal, so we've got to give him credit for that. But as a central attacker, he'll be looking to lay things off just the way we saw Corazine lay him off for Canada.
Colin Miller with a little bit of space in midfield. Lawless comes through to win that ball away from Bunbury. Thomas Dooley, the captain today. John Hart, with accumulated yellow cards, is with the team, has been training all week, as has Jeff Agus, but not eligible to play today.
Some of the combination play for the U.S. on the far side's not working quite yet, not quite clicking. Preki has not played that much for them of late, and so some of the anticipation not there in the receivers. There you see the Pope-Preki combo breakdown.
Alex Bunbury from Maritimo in Portugal.
But look at Corazine lay this ball off nicely here. Receives it beautifully with a good touch and then lays it off. But everybody's in a good position. Balboa was in a good position to block the shot. It got by him, but Friedel had taken the near post where he must cover. And the attack was stifled.
Took a 23-hour flight. Alex Bunbury did a selection of flights to get in for this, and when, as we said, when he got here, discovered not all of his mates had come back from Europe. Lawless cuts it out of the box. Miller and Ronaldo challenging there. Bent and Dooley. Dooley and Bent. Jason Bent taken down. About 10 yards outside the penalty area.
Jason Bent is a very good player for Canada, a young player.
Number 19.
Well, you see him there making the challenge with Dooley. Dooley wins it, but then loses it again and then takes Bent down in trying to win it back. Bent, those quick short steps getting inside Dooley. Bent had a very good game against Mexico, and he's been marking Claudio Reyna mostly, but he's a central midfield threat.
We'll see he'll take this free kick, the wall. Several strides inside the box.
Looks like Corazine is lining it up.
He's there along with Frank Yallop. Corazine, number 12. Plays with Plymouth Argyle in England. We'll see if he'll take this free kick. Which he does, and over the top. Brad Friedel will have Sun issues in the second half, certainly, as will Paul Dolan in this first half. Ty Keogh on our sideline. The Sun will be a factor, won't it?
The Sun is definitely a factor. Steve Sampson right now up off of his bench. He's got to be concerned. It can be a curse sometimes to get an early, somewhat easy goal, as Claudio Reyna did. The U.S. team's play since then a bit lackadaisical, but Paul Dolan having to deal with a low-angle Sun. I talked to Steve Sampson. He said the USA, in fact, did win the toss, wanted to put him under pressure, but they'd not been taking long-range shots to use that Sun angle as an advantage. And their hope is in the second half the Sun will disappear past the lower right-hand corner of the stadium here.
I got news for them. It won't. We were here yesterday afternoon, and for that very reason, we checked it out. That will not happen. Friedel is going to have to use eye black and a baseball cap. Jason DeVos touched by Dazovic, broken up by Winalda, and a throw in for the Canadians. 17th minute.
U.S. indulging a little bit in some low percentage type passes and flicks here. Need to get back to the basics of supporting each other, getting into open positions and playing quickly out of trouble rather than trying to play cleverly out of trouble.
Miller plays it wide to Mark Watson, who plays professionally in Sweden. There's one Canadian in Major League Soccer, Frank Yallop. And he, of course, is in this Canadian selection today. Great soccer tradition in Vancouver, or actually in the suburb of Burnaby, just east of the Vancouver city line. Of course, the Whitecaps in North American Soccer League lore had a great atmosphere when they played at Empire Stadium. Corazine in the box, Lawless watching him. Carlo Corazine playing for the corner. Burns is in there. Dazovic right on to Friedel with Martin Nash in front. Quickly outletting, looking for Roy Wegerle. Claudio Reyna, the goal scorer. Joe Max leaves it for him. Ahead for Dooley against Jason Bent. Moore with a long-distance shot, and Dolan.
Well, Wegerle made a good run inside, but Winalda made an even better run to the outside, and they didn't get him that early ball. Reyna looked like he had a chance to put it over the top, and they opted instead to slide it through to Dooley going forward, which is a good option.
Mike Burns back to his keeper. Well, today the U.S. a favorite. Today so far early on it's worked out. No report yet in. We assume still a scoreless match, El Salvador and Jamaica. Thomas Rongen of the U.S. national coaching staff is down there and on the telephone, and with contemporaneous results as they happen, and we'll be passing them along. Steve Sampson will get the word first, I imagine. They have a system of headphones set up for him to know exactly what's happening down there. As when Alda takes down Jason Bent with his left hand, it was called for it.
Jason Bent is a troublesome player for the U.S. It's interesting how much effectiveness Canada is showing through the middle of the midfield for the U.S. It's very definitely a foul by Winalda coming back, getting the shoulder, knocking him over. But Bent's pace and quickness on the turn is causing some troubles for Dooley.
And this is only Jason Bent's second cap. He played well with the under-20 team in Malaysia for Canada, and now he is in the selection. A ball by Moore looking for Reyna. We are told 22 minutes in, it is scoreless in San Salvador, but Jamaica. The immediate throw-in taken by Wegerle, pushes it for Joe Max Moore. Still on the ball, blocked in the box. Brecky with the chip and taken down by Paul Dolan.
Intelligent play by Brecky, though, looking for that chip to the far post. Paul Dolan very tall, however, and ready for it. Brecky with a delicate chip, trying to go to the far post, but not quite enough loft on it.
Steve Sampson may not get more than 45 minutes out of Predrag Radosavljevic today, Brecky, but he's got Kobe Jones and Ernie Stewart dressed on the bench as substitutes available. Paul Caligiuri is dressed as a substitute today. Eddie Pope has had some slight hamstring twinges, so it's a question of whether they can get 90 minutes out of Eddie Pope today. Cut in by Watson. Good ball by Miller. Lawless in the air.
Well, not much question there. Surely Lawless went up, had a free header, and Bunbury just bowled him over. You'll see the header chance here. Lawless has a good shot, but obviously Bunbury leaning all over him with his left arm. Not a popular decision here in Canada, where folks see Alexi Lawless mostly in his commercial role on television. So a few witty remarks from behind us here about that.
But we're sitting in the stands. We're doing the match in amongst the fans, and it's a rather intimate setting. It's really delightful, and on a beautiful sun-drenched afternoon. Burns off his chest, Winalda back to Michael.
Now this is better by the U.S. Good control, and not a very good finishing ball by Reyna.
Looking for Brecky, who didn't make a run, and sent back by Frank Yellop. Dolan didn't want to quite do that, I don't believe. Mike Burns, who started all 32 matches of Major League Soccer this year, and that's a testament to his durability. Corazine with Burns, with Balboa covering behind. The flat back four today for the United States.
That goal area is a little bumpy. Some of those back passes could be a bit tricky.
And this pitch is wet, too.
Yeah. Watson looks long. They keep looking up top.
Bunbury with a head. Well, we've got Wednesday National Hockey League action on the deuce. Battle of the Lincoln Tunnel, the Devils and the Rangers at 7:30 Eastern Time here on ESPN2. And right now it's the battle of the longest undefended border in the world between these two nations. So today on the pitch, they're very much in contention. Coming through Frank Yallop for that ball. Corazine to Yallop. He's got men in the box.
Yeah, some sloppy play in midfield by the U.S. With some high-risk passing in an area of the field where an interception can really victimize 3 or 4 players, and that's what was accomplished by Frank Yallop. See a lot of players here, but there's a very loose pass from Reyna. He had some space, he had some players inside to turn to, but Yallop read it very well.
Joe Max Moore was fouled, so a free kick for the United States right on the halfway line. The shadows will creep basically from the bottom of the pitch up towards the top. The benches are now, as you may have noticed a moment ago, already in shadow. Cut off there by Dazovic. Colin Miller, number 6. Ian Fraser with a long ball for Bunbury. Playing it back now. Dazovic, number 4. Canada trailing the United States with a win today, and if they can see the result from San Salvador, which would be just 1 point from Jamaica, that would put them into the field of 32. Already 22 nations have qualified for France. The U.S. could be number 23 today.
Well, Canada proving to be a pesky opponent here as they take a quick free kick.
Martin Nash with that ball. Corazine, but Eddie Pope out of the air. Wegerle comes back, checks back for it. Joe Max with Winalda making that run. Wegerle, onside, offside. No, the flag was up across the way. Nice idea.
Well, Winalda did some good work initially to come back, win the ball, and then try to time his run. Now you see him making the run before the ball is even played. Knew exactly where the space was and tried to stay onside, but just ran over the line. He'll be a little unhappy about that because he did have a line of vision of the defenders across the field, so he could see it.
He's scored in 3 of the last 5 qualifiers that he has played in. Bunbury chasing. Burns. Alex saved that ball. It's a throw in U.S. He saved it for Burns. Of course, there's much has been made about the starting forwards of the U.S. not scoring a goal except for PKs, except for penalty kicks since March of this year when Winalda did it. The U.S. you judged on results, and the results are right now they're in position to qualify if the events fall their way today. Throw in for Canada.
Well, Canada's carried a lot of the play, as they did actually in the match where they lost 3-0. That may surprise some people, but the U.S. got the early goal and then followed up with a great second one. And then Canada had some great chances to get back in the game, and poor finishing hurt them. But they've got some good ball possession so far in this game.
Nash winds it up into the box. Dooley flicks it out. Dazovic with a head. Dooley again in the air. Dazovic contesting. Colin Miller circling away from Dooley. Ian Fraser, number 3, for Jason Bent with Eddie Pope. And Eddie Pope. Oh, look at Eddie Pope. Defender of the year in Major League Soccer, and you saw there why.
Well, that's a good matchup. If he ends up with Bent, then that's a comforting matchup. A bit more difficult for Tom Dooley because of Bent's real close-in quickness, but Pope certainly has that.
And you talked about Canada and the level of their play, and they're carrying the flow at this moment. They still are. Jason Bent on the ball, the only nation to lead Mexico at any point in qualification. Nash to Friedel right there. Even today, Mexico did not trail against Costa Rica. Here comes the United States, and an obstruction there against Jason DeVos as he sent Eric Winalda down in pain. Maybe more than simple obstruction. And a yellow card is shown to Jason DeVos in the 26th minute.
Well, very obviously, Winalda got the touch on the ball away. The ball winged out there to him very quickly by Brad Friedel for the quick counterattack. And that's been an opportunity waiting to happen. But DeVos came over and gave him one of those classic third division Darlington challenges.
You're saying that it's not an artistic Darlington side, you're saying. Corazine, Canada back on it. So again, they led Mexico several weeks ago in Edmonton with a 0 Fahrenheit wind chill. And Mexico had to rally to tie that match. Jason Bent now on the ball again, looking for his options. To Corazine, sent wide by Bunbury. Into the box. Header there by Mike Burns. Bunbury contesting.
Marcelo Balboa absolutely hammered to the ground by Bunbury after he made that header. And nothing given there.
And Canada carrying the play here in the 28th minute.
And the U.S. just not having that cohesion that we looked for. Giving the ball up too easily.
Miller right onto Friedel and no rebound. So the U.S. with the lead, but certainly not the momentum. And I can't imagine Steve Sampson is happy at these last 10 minutes of play. Preki has touched it infrequently. There's Winalda. Good ball by Preki. Winalda with teammates in the box. Right on to Paul Dolan. Curling ball.
Well, that was a bit of a waste by Eric after a terrific ball over the top by Preki.
Foul by Lawless.
Good supporting runs by other U.S. players to help out, but a soft lob turned up nothing. Soft chip, rather.
Fraser's ball lifted out by Lawless. Dooley puts it out of trouble. Let's check in quickly with Ty Keogh.
Steve Sampson has two main concerns about Eric Winalda. One of them is that he's getting a little bit hot under the collar. First, the offside call a few moments ago, and then the tackle, in fact, the obstruction, where he may have hurt his shoulder. Remember, Winalda playing with that yellow card. So it's also a question of getting Winalda involved with some longer balls, perhaps over the top of the Canadian defenders. The U.S. team has not stretched the field out enough to keep the Canadian defenders honest.
All right, you saw the grimace there for the shoulder when he was fouled there, Eric Winalda. Taken down by Dazovic.
Nice piece of skill, though, for Winalda there, cutting in nicely, drawing the challenge on the eventual foul.
He was injured in training on Thursday. His left ankle was wrapped and iced and x-rayed. It was negative. Pope sends it in. Loose at the 6th. Dooley ran onto it.
A great back flick from Wegerle.
Yes,
A
on the right side.
blind back flick after the ball was won beautifully in the air by Pope. Lovely struck ball by Reyna in the first place. So here you see the Pope winning the ball. Now watch this little back flick here. A little hard to pick out, but he definitely did it. But again, Bent, Jason Bent, number 19, has had a very fine game for Canada, and he blocked Dooley from getting a really decent shot.
Canada controlling the midfield at this point, in the person in this moment of Jason Bent, circling away from Claudio Reyna, who has the U.S. goal. Bunbury, no one makes the run up the middle, and Cello cleans it out of trouble. Roy Wegerle from DC United. Joe Max Moore cleaned away there, but persevering is Wegerle, and blunting the counterattack by Canada. Dazovic now to Carlo Corazin. Burns checking back. Cello has trouble with his footing inside the box. Corazin still on the ball. And a corner kick for the Canadians.
Well, definitely, there's not much question about the fact that Canada is winning the physical battle in midfield. They keep getting the 50-50 balls and the second balls that fall in midfield. They are winning those battles. Very good tackle by DeVos that time.
Header. Got it down just wide.
Well, a breakdown there, no question about it.
Mark Watson.
Yeah, Mark Watson comes up from right back, and absolutely nobody in a white shirt is anywhere near him.
What would they say in England? Criminally unmarked.
Something like that, yes. But Cello was closest to him, but afterwards he looked like he thought somebody else should have been taking him. There you see the shots, pretty close, but you got to give credit to Canada for a very spirited game, particularly in midfield.
Joe Max Moore now had trouble with that. Colin Miller, Carlo Corazin. Eddie Pope gets a foot in, as does Thomas Dooley, and the U.S. back in possession. Brecky. Moore gets through Bent, but not a third defender. 32 minutes in San Salvador. Continues scoreless, which is the result the U.S. would want. Would also want Jamaica to score, but a point from Jamaica and a win here puts the U.S. into France. Feed there for Wegerle, who is tied up there with DeVos. And the foul about 40 yards out now.
Well, that foul came because the U.S. played more speedily out of midfield. They found the players. They didn't try to take players on. There's been too much one-on-one stuff by midfielders for the United States in the center. That's all right to do out on the flanks. But if you lose a ball trying a one-on-one thing in the center of midfield, then you are really putting your backs under trouble.
Reyna looking for Balboa. Dazovic gets it out. Burns with Bunbury and knocks him to the turf right at the halfway line. That will be a free kick off the foul. Taken immediately by Miller, looking for Corazin. Pope has him. Nice hitter by Pope. And Mike Burns for Wegerle, but one in the air by DeVos.
Well, that shows DeVos's experience playing in the third division of England. He's seen a lot of those tough balls come in, and he's very, very competent at coming through with great physical challenge. Here he is again. Yep, see, that's very good stuff.
Bent.
Picks out Bent for a recipient of that pass.
Starting to look like the Norway-Ireland match from the World Cup with all the head balls. Put out by Cello. 33rd minute in Burnaby, British Columbia. Marcelo Balboa, all-time appearances leader for the U.S. side. Martin Nash comes through, sends it inside down a deflection. Reina has it.
But really, Claudio Reina taking players on outside his own penalty area. That is criminal. Can't do that.
There's Nash looking to turn on Balboa. Dazovic, Winalda got the foot in from behind. It went into touch. And a U.S. throw-in.
Well, good play by Winalda again.
Coming back for the ball.
Yep. But a little bit annoyingly casual play by some of the U.S. players with maybe even a hint of arrogance. That's not what they want. They want to get back to the team spirit that we saw.
Again, the scenario, a win here and a point from Jamaica on the road today in San Salvador. They're approaching halftime in San Salvador. So already Mexico drawing with Costa Rica. That was the first tumbler in this lock, if you will.
And a shocker of a tumbler.
Yes, because Mexico led 2-0 and then 3-2, and we're tied. This is onside. Joe Max Moore with Winalda in the middle.
Well, appeals for offside because it was Wegerle was in an offside position, but he came back all the way to play himself out of the play, so he was trying to show that he was not interfering with play.
An intelligent non-call.
You see Wegerle coming back here saying, not me. Ball is alarmingly close to him, however. Canadians might have a case there.
Corzine with Burns and Cello with a left foot. And a foul called and a free kick for the Canadians.
Boy, Wegerle, who's had such a good impact in the Mexico game.
Back of the picture. This is third start in qualifying. Brought back for the home match with Costa Rica. Dazovic, low cross. Dooley puts it out. Winalda with Dazovic behind him and Eric. Wegerle cuts it ahead for Joe Max Moore, waiting for some support. Reina coming down the middle, trailed by Dooley. Joe Max Moore on the ball. No one there since Dooley had moved up. On
Joe
a deflection.
Joe Max knows he should have done better with that. Should have been able to get a good cross.
Miller with a long ball. Corzine on the left side now. Dooley puts it out. Joe Max Moore from the Revolution collects it. Eric Winalda. Offside flag is up. And a reminder of ESPN 2's Tuesday tennis action, the ATP Tour. The Mercedes Super 9. Pete Sampras in action, #1 in the world. It all begins at 8 a.m. Eastern time here on the Deuce.
Wegerle trying to cut through there and please these American fans with maybe getting a second goal before halftime, which would be a great boost to the U.S.
Frank Yallop off the free kick. Bunbury with the head. Chillo couldn't win it in the air. Possible handballs. Canadians appealing that as Pope puts it to the side. At least that was the Canadian view of events in the box. Jason Bent with that shot that whistles harmlessly well wide.
I think they were more concerned that Bunbury was bundled over by Lallis, and I'm going to tell you that one of the things that's a little concerning is that the United States defense are being out-jumped. There you see the ball just fell down, and there's the challenge by Alexi Lallis on Bunbury. It looked like he might have knocked him over. Bunbury certainly went down, but referee is not about to give, I think, any dubious penalties. But I'm starting to say they're starting to lose some balls in the air that
normally they'd get.
Yeah, they're being out-jumped there in the center of the back four.
Bad ball there by DeVos. I think Yallop has to collect that. Yep. And now Dazovic for Bunbury with Lallis. Watching the Bunbury-Lallis matchup, it's reminiscent of Alexi against Dwight York way back when last year when qualifying was in its infant stages. Another skillful European-based striker. Alex called for the ball. Dazovic now against Burns. The cross lifted out by Balboa. Canada's still on it. Ian Fraser's ball. The cross, empty net, just through the goal mouth with Mike Burns making sure of it.
Now, this is the best that Canada's played in quite a while. Great ball in there, and the cross knocked away and almost fully cleared by Preki, but not the distance he wanted and not to a player he wanted. Great play here by Canada. Very fine run through by Miller.
Corner kick, header over the top. by Corazine.
Yeah, Corazine and Bunbury both are really giving fits and starts to Balboa and company back there. Balboa beaten again. He's been beaten about 4 or 5 times in a row now on those contested headers.
DeVos in the air. Precki wins it. 11 shots in this match. Canada now with the edge. Eddie Pope circling away from Bunbury. So subtly, so well. Offside as Wegerle was ahead of the play.
Eddie finding it hard to get a closer target, which is of some concern. Players not really showing for him that much, and Canadian players having an easier task, therefore, just to mark them up without working.
Third offside for the United States. Corazine off his chest. Nolan Miller in midfield, number 6. The U.S. leading it on the Reyna goal in the 5th minute.
There's another typical challenge there. The ball seeming to drop for the Canadians. Good forceful challenges, though, help you win those. It's just not all luck.
There's Cello in the air, the way he's made his name, but Wallace comes through, settled nicely and quickly by Moore, who's tackled and fouled from behind by Frank Yallop of the Tampa Bay Mutiny.
Well, that definitely was the so-called professional foul, because as he was turning, he was on his way, was Joe Max.
Reyna now.
Yallop knew it, took him down.
Precki had that one chip. Aside from that, not much in the flow of this first half. Right-footed lead, but read well by Canada. Back on at the U.S. Precki, but Fraser wins that ball. Pope. And a throw in for the black-clad Canadians in their alternate kit.
Crucial 5-minute period coming up now here for the U.S. They've not looked smooth going forward, except for a couple of pieces of good teamwork play, and defensively there have been some questions, so they want to just get out of here with a 1-goal lead and regroup. Cello and Corazine have had a heck of a battle, and I have to say that Corazine has got the edge so far.
Today, 123rd cap for Marcelo Balbon. Paul Caligiuri is on the bench. Kobe Jones we may well see in the second half. Wallace and Waldo also picking up additional caps today. Wallace for the Rainmaker.
Good play.
Moore, yes. Joe Max for Precki. Looking ahead. Good read there by number 13, Mark Watson in central defense.
And Balboa did turn that to the center, so maybe it's about even up at this point. Maybe you see a lot of high balls in the second half, I would think, as you mentioned, that Son and the goal at the off on the left here that the U.S. is shooting at. A tough place to be defending in the second half.
Flick on by Reyna, but Miller back to his keeper. And Paul Dolan, who plays with the Vancouver 86ers, with that ball that Pope took down. In the 42nd minute, a World Cup qualifier that might put the USA officially into France '98. Alex Bunbury for Canada now. It's past Dooley. A bad back pass, and Ronaldo reads it. 3-on-2 for the U.S. if they hustle. Broken up by Yallop on the ball on the right side by Wegerle. Reyna back on it, though. U.S. building an attack. Claudio Reyna has 1 goal. Claudio Reyna on his left foot, in front, through the goal mouth.
Oh, my goodness. What a great piece of work by Reyna. This is what the U.S. wants to see more of Reyna doing, because he has the skill and the pace to get by people. Look, he takes 2 of them on. He gets around the corner here, leaves Watson for dead, and has an easy crossing opportunity for somebody to come in and just put it away, and it just skips out in front of Joe Max Moore.
Blossoming at Wolfsburg this year as a playmaking midfielder. Scored 2 goals against Bayern Munich, 1 in a cup match. Pope with Martin Nash. The U.S. at this point looking just to keep possession and take this lead to halftime. Then, of course, Brad Fiedel will have that Sun to contend with in the second half. Again, I don't believe the shadows will creep across his goal mouth by game's end. He has the sun at his back now. It will be in his face in the second half. Flick on by Wegerle, looking for more. Reyna's on the ball now. Joe Max Will Mike Burns move up? Well, he's got a little bit of space. He's got Winalda to his left right there. And Moore coming down the middle. But there's Watson. Dolan dangerously up the gut to clear that ball. On to Jason Bent. Just behind on the Turnberry touch for Bent, but Canada's still on it. Martin Nash. Dooley gets a touch in there. Brecky coming back. That shot safe, punched away by Friedel and then cleared. A blazing shot.
Well, the U.S. punt with numbers down there, and Brecky came back to help out. You see Brecky making the challenge, but he can't quite win it. And a very strong piece of work by Nash. And Friedel decides, better not try to hold this one. Blocks it away, and the U.S. now with 2 minutes to go. On defense.
Nash corner kick. No one gets the head to it. Dooley was the last shirt there, so a throw-in for the United States. That was the first rebound that he's given up today.
You see we're in the last minute of play here. The stadium clock has stopped with 2 minutes to go. One of the most peculiar, there's the shot in goal, and a good parry by Friedel. As I was saying, one of the most peculiar phenomena that you find nowhere else in the world, and I think is totally bizarre and weird, is to be stopping the clock with 2 minutes to go for fans.
And a whistle and a card shown to Mark Watson.
That's been coming.
In the 45th minute.
Yeah, he has been whacking people pretty tough early on. He got Winalda once, but had a fairly calming 35 minutes or so after that, but finally got away from him.
45th minute. Watson earns the card for that. Little shove. Winalda as we approach injury time here in the first half. Mario Reyna, Dazovic watching him. The lengthening shadows in Burnaby, British Columbia on a scintillating afternoon for weather and for U.S. soccer, leading 1-0. Little miscommunication with the Canadian keeper and his defense. So a throw in here in injury time.
Great ball by Burnsy, though, over the top. Just what they wanted to get the ball down to the Canadian end.
Reyna dispossessed, but put into touch there by Eric Winalda.
We're in injury time now, 30 seconds gone. There was that one injury, of course, to Friedel.
So sometime added out by Senor Toro Rendon, our Colombian official. Bent with Lawless, and Alexi is there. First to the ball and fouled. Canadian fans yelling for obstruction.
Good shielding of the ball here by Lawless, keeping it nice and close to his feet so he can't be accused of obstruction, and he's bowled over for his troubles.
Sat out 2 matches. The Jamaica match, prior to that the Costa Rica match in Portland, as the U.S. changed the back line, and Thomas Dooley went to the back line, but he is now back in this selection for the second match in a row. Dazovic with a ball, looking for Nash against Pope. But over the byline.
It started out looking good, but although the field is wide, it's short.
108
so
yards.
Not long before you run out of space.
It is halftime in San Salvador. Jamaica and El Salvador are scoreless, which is the result the U.S. will be hoping for. This match a few minutes behind. Next weekend, all 3 matches begin simultaneously. Mexico started 3 hours early today. Winalda with some space to the inside. He's got Brecky on the opposite wing against Ian Fraser with 4 Yanks in the box. And Pope will go back for it. 2 minutes now in the 3rd minute of injury time.
Yeah, this is
a lot of time.
Hard to understand.
Lifted out by Nash. There's Bunbury with Pope, who wins the ball and commits the foul. Now this injury time becomes critical from the U.S. standpoint with a free kick.
Hard to figure where all this time is coming from. There were 2 injuries that I can remember, Friedel and Winalda, and that was, I don't think they were, Friedel certainly took a bit of time.
Ball skitters right through all the players as Cello couldn't get ahead to it, and a corner kick flicking off an American player as we approach our 4th minute.
This is incredible.
Of injury time. Martin Nash on the corner. Looking for Corazine. Now Dazovic will chase it down. Dazovic with the ball. Friedel is there with Corazine in front. And the outlet quickly to Roy Wegerle. He's got Winalda coming down the middle, and Joe Max Moore trailing the central run in front, looking for Joe Max. But read there by Yallop. How much time are we going to play here?
This is ridiculous.
3.5 minutes of injury time, rather mysteriously tacked on here. All right, it's halftime finally in Burnaby, British Columbia, outside Vancouver, with the United States on a goal by Claudio Reyna in the 5th minute. In the lead, if they win, and Jamaica can take a point today, the USA will go to France.
I think that's great.
Upcoming halftime highlights and a look at all the possibilities still alive in the region known as CONCACAF. With only 2 weeks left in qualifying, all 6 CONCACAF finalists came into today's matches alive for the World Cup. Jamaica's Reggae Boys control their destiny. A win today in El Salvador, and they are in. A draw means they have to wait a week. Mexico is going to the finals, having clinched with last week's draw against the United States. And because of today's result against Costa Rica and Mexico City, the U.S. will qualify today with a win, but only if Jamaica can get a point in San Salvador. If that happens, say goodbye to Canada. But if El Salvador beats Jamaica and the U.S. can only manage a draw, it's a 3-way tie for second, making next week's USA-El Salvador match in Foxborough the one to watch. Confused yet? There's more. If Canada wins today, they are still alive for France, but they need to beat Costa Rica next week and get major help from Mexico against Jamaica because of their miserable goal differential. But it could happen. And remember, the draw for France 98 is only a month away. Well, the draw is in Marseille, December 4th. As we said, Jamaica, El Salvador, they are scoreless at the half in San Salvador. Costa Rica and Mexico with the draw, so that part of the equation has worked through so far for the USA. Sun-drenched Sunday afternoon in Burnaby, British Columbia. The rain at goal is the difference. We've got more coming up. 2 o'clock Eastern time. It may yet come down to that match. The celebration of the moment. It came early in the match, but Canada has been equal to it since then. The second half and highlights coming up.
Minutes of solid soccer to get to advance this lead or hold on to it.
5th minute, the U.S. breaking out on top. It all began with the hard work of whom else again but Joe Max Moore.
Well, Joe Max Moore wins the header very nicely, and he sends Wegerle through. Wegerle looks up nicely and then cuts his ball back to Reyna, who does one of those classic Reyna pivots. And this time finds the goal because the keeper Dolan had been drawn out. He tried that against Jamaica. He just missed the post. This time it went in. Meanwhile, at the other end, Nash had some really dangerous rushes. This time he outmuscles Preki and hits a terrific swerving ball in on Friedel, whom he decides just to punch away wisely because there's so much power on it.
13 shots so far in this match. No corner kicks for the U.S. Canada with 4. 18 total fouls. U.S. offside 3 times, trying several counterattacks, but they have the 1-goal-to-none lead. And again, the victory here today. And if Jamaica take a point off El Salvador, the next stop would be the world draw December 4th in Marseille. 45 tense minutes left from the Canadian Pacific.
After 50.
The USA over Canada.
Team Canada substitution.
Game summary. Reyna with the goal in the 5th minute. And 2 cards to Jason DeVos and to Mark Watson. Let's check in with Ty Keogh on the sideline. Ty.
Ernie Stewart will enter the game at the start of the second half for Preki in that right midfield slot. So a change in Ernie Stewart's speed will come in handy as the U.S. tries to extend their lead. Steve Sampson, concerned about the physical play of the Canadians, says they have nothing to lose, where the U.S. team with 6 starters with yellow cards have to be careful.
Ernie Stewart will come on for Preki. Dominic Mobilio, number 7 in black, will also come on, replacing Jason Bent. Now, there is a curious substitution.
I find that very odd indeed. Jason Bent may be hurt, but he certainly has not let down his team. He has been very dangerous. in midfield. He's won countless battles and has been accelerating out of midfield and has, I think, been a real thorn in the side of the midfield for the United States. So maybe there's an injury issue that we don't know about, but it's an odd substitution.
Dominic Mobilio plays with the Vancouver 86ers, replacing Jason Bent. And this half, the sun getting lower, more dangerous will be in the face of Brad Friedel. USA 1-0 over Canada, 1-1 Jamaica, El Salvador, which is the result the U.S. would like to see hold up. A draw from Jamaica would be just fine. Nash with the ball, looking for Corazine. There with Balboa, who puts it into touch. Eric Winalda has a separated shoulder, we are told. Received an injection at halftime. Is staying in the match. Playing with the pain. Flick on by Corazine, but wide of Brad Friedel. So that challenge halfway through the first half, when Winalda went down in a heap, that drew the card on Jason DeVos, separating the shoulder of Winalda. He's not coming out. Preki has come off, which is all Steve Sampson was, I think, looking to get from him was 45 minutes. They were not particularly effective minutes. He had one shot on goal. Dolan waits for that ball at the edge of his area. The lengthening shadows of the long pine trees that surround this pitch.
Well, you saw also Friedel shading his eyes even before the kickoff, trying to look for a target to take that goal kick, rather.
I'm sure he has the option of wearing a ball cap, but he's elected not to. Ian Fraser, Bunbury with Lawless. Fraser sends it in, lifted up by Reyna, but not out. Pope, wrong way on that one. And a corner kick, the fourth of the match for the Canadians. How is the U.S. getting updates? Clive Charles is getting radio reports from the press box. And there's a link there with press officer Jim Froslett, who's talking to Thomas Rongan in San Salvador. That's how the score updates are getting to Steve Sampson.
But the main job is right here for the U.S.
High ball by Nash. Over Dooley's head as he chases it down. Winalda looking for Ernie Stewart.
Well, Ernie Stewart, of course, is a well-known player to U.S. soccer fans. And now here in the right side of midfield, terrific speed. And the extra thing that he brings, of course, is not only his speed going forward, but also he's very good at tracking back and doing that defensive role, perhaps a little bit better than Preki is. Too bad Preki didn't see a little bit more of the ball in situations where he's so good. He only had a couple of one-on-one chances.
Winalda fouled there by Colin Miller. Playing in the midfield, 25 touches, had one shot, created two other chances off his work on the ball.
Still holding that shoulder. You could see him a couple of times go for it.
Stewart. Well, Winalda is a world-class striker, an absolute artiste on the ball. But in all frankness, he is not known for having the highest of pain thresholds, but he's able to play through that pain. He's demonstrative when he hurts, but he plays hurt.
Nice work by Claudio Reyna there, getting away from a tough marker. Here's Mobilio.
Stewart's throwing, shift right onto Reyna. Claudio Reyna deflected on that left-footed shot.
I think it went off
a
Dooley.
US player.
Yeah, Tom
because
Dooley.
of the goal kick.
Dooley was the one who cut in front of it, and this might have been going in. Let's take a look. He makes a nice touch here and a good shot.
Oh.
But incredibly, Dooley runs right into the trajectory of that shot.
Reyna, great challenge in the air. There's Mobilio with his first touch, number 7. Preki played the first 45 minutes. Actually did have a shot and created 2 chances and 16 touches of the ball. Dooley comes through there. And little trouble, the U.S. getting arranged there and settled, and now Martin Nash with Winalda tracking back from midfield and Burns in front of him. Nash, and Reyna lifts it out. Bunbury in midfield brings it down for Miller, flicks it ahead. Balboa Miller again challenging. Joe Max Moore always working, as he's been doing the last match and a half. Ernie Stewart. Moore again against Mobilio. A little close quarter action for the United States, and now Polk tries to stretch it out. Jason DeVos.
Oh, a little back flick there by Dooley creates a chance for Wegerle.
DeVos having his problems in the air. Now Wegerle goes far post, but right there is Dolan. There's some unsettled defensive moments for Canada.
Yeah, and a little bit of lack of precision about the final ball for the U.S. We saw Reyna, of course, with a great chance a minute ago, but that was a good chance for Wegerle.
Challenge in the air, won by Canada. Pope comes through to win that. Now Nash on the ground for Mobilio. Dazovic. Nick Dazovic, the outside of his right foot. Laid off by Corazine, back to Dazovic. Ian Frazier's pushed up. Push in the box. Down went Corazine.
That was better balanced defending by the U.S. All the spaces were covered up nicely. There was never a suggestion of a one pass beating them all. Some good depth back there. That's an improvement. And there's a very good header back by Yallop.
Dooley. Off his head. Mobilio inside for Bunbury. Got Nash making a run, but plays it back to Miller. Nash with Mike Burns, who commits the foul, about 35 yards out. Free kick for Canada. Miller on the immediate restart for Nash. Friedel pulls it down. Dangerous player down the right side. Martin Nash plays with Stockport. This is offside.
Yeah, Wegerle was called for offside. Joe Max had made the run from a deeper position, but flag went up, and the referee's assistant was in a terrific position to call that offside.
And directly in front of us. We're only about 8 rows up off the pitch in the stands, and as close a view as you'll ever have to a World Cup qualifier.
Kobe Jones warming up now.
Corazine with a header. And wins the second ball. But cleared out of there by Reyna, trying to lead Roy Wegerle. Frank Yallop in a little bit of trouble. Goes to Ian Frazier. Pressured there by Moore. Polk. Nice ball to Ernie Stewart. He's got Moore to his right. Ernie Stewart, second half substitute. Moore looking inside. Back on the ball. Just controlling and dictating play now for the U.S. Joe Max Moore. Mike Burns from his left back position comes to the right side of the pitch. Reyna, the goal scorer. Cello's got some room. Plenty of it. Ronaldo now on the left side, sends it in with his right foot. Bounding down in the box. Wegerle tries to control that ball. And it's into touch, and it's over the byline for the goal kick.
Good build-up by the U.S. there. Composed passing. Eventually getting it over to Walden with a good swerving ball in that really is difficult for the Canadian defense to get to. But unfortunately, it took a tough bounce for Wegerle, and he wasn't able to get the control on it he wanted. But this is better by the U.S. in spreading that ball from wing to wing. It makes them look a little bit more authoritative, and it created a chance or two in the box.
Reyna collects that ball. Burns is playing today for Jeff Agus. Goose is yet to learn whether it's just a one-match suspension for his red card. Roy Wegerle tried to return it to Eric Ronaldo. Look at that ball control now by the 34-year-old Roy Wegerle. Joe Max Moore chasing in the box, loose, skittering wide left and chased down. Corner kick, USA. Here we are in the booth. That's us. And we're right off the pitch, as you see. And right amongst the good fans of Canada-U.S. World Cup qualifier.
Wegerle doing very well there coming off. He wasn't able to get the first ball through, but he came back and worked hard at it, won it again. See what Joe Max does here with looking for Lawless.
Moore pulled down by Dolan with Lawless on the far post. Lawless has looked very sharp this week in finishing drills. Frazier now on the ball. those shadows all the way across the field from the tall trees that surround this pitch. Carlo Corazine, number 12. Stewart's watching zone. Dazovic, number 4 for Canada. Controlled well by Nash. Corazine now. He's got Mobilio in front. Bunbury far post. Looking for Bunbury. One in the air, though.
Burns in terrific position inside the attacking Bunbury.
Now Reyna with Stewart making a run to the inside. Flicks off his foot, but he still is in possession. Stewart crossing and put out for the corner kick by Frank Yella. Soccer action on ESPN Tuesday at 1:30 Eastern. The top 8 players in the world. The ATP Mercedes Super 9. Corner kick, USA. Played short. Joe Max Moore will have another.
Ernie Stewart already creating some problems for the defense on the left side here of Canada by getting into spaces behind them and not just simply running at them the way Preki normally does.
Moore lifts it. Dooley got a bit of a head to it, but last headed by Canada, so a throw in for the States. What a backdrop for this game. The spectacular scenery around this city. Lawless into the box. There's Watson to get it out of trouble for Canada. Bunbury with a touch to Nash. Looking to return the favor, but 36-year-old Thomas Dooley is there to win that ball.
Well, that's just the role that Dooley has to play, is just tucking in there in front of the back four of the U.S. centrally and pinching that ball away when players for Canada look like they might break centrally. And, of course, Reyna has to be helping out there, too.
Joe Max Moore on that ball from Marcelo Balboa. Cutting inside. DeVos tries to get it out of trouble. Reyna's on it. Wegerle to his right. Stewart's at the edge of the box. Roy Wegerle, there's Ernie Stewart. Plays with Breda in Holland. Having a very good season. And that ball by Claudio Reyna out of bounds.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's official attendance, it is a
1-0 U.S. And the concern also, and a little chilly in the shade, is it still 1-1 in San Salvador? That is our latest report. Jamaica and El Salvador 1 apiece. A draw there and a victory for the U.S. here. A draw for Canada, I should say for Jamaica, would put the U.S. into France. Good ball to Stewart. Wins the second ball, but collected by Dominic Mobilio. The second half sub for the Canadian side. Dazovic looks for Nash. Nash for Bunbury. Now Miller. Watson's ball. Slipping on that slick turf was Carlo Corazine, and a goal kick for the U.S. There has been only one road victory in all the CONCACAF qualifying in this second phase, and that was Mexico in El Salvador on June 8th, 1-0. U.S. hoping to become the second team to do that today. Casey Kelly, you see there. Substitution being ready. That'll be Garrett Kush coming into the match for the Canadians.
Now, what the U.S. has got to do is to get a little bit more possession of the ball. You see how dangerous Bunbury can be when he gets away from people.
Miller.
Quick free kick taken.
For Fraser. Watched by Stewart. That sun getting lower. Friedel constantly shading his eyes in front.
He's going to have real problems if they can start lofting some things in there.
Dazovic on the ball.
Bob, you and I went and stood in that goal yesterday afternoon at just this time of day.
That's right.
To take a look, and it was beautiful scenery, but a kind of a nightmare view for the goalkeeper.
Martin Nash will be coming off as Garrett Kush will come on. 24-year-old player, and Nash, who has been a factor. Bob Lenarduzzi taking off another player who has been a bit of an impact player in this match.
I would say so. Nash had that Martin Nash had that terrific shot that we showed you at halftime that Friedel parried away. Let's see what what Kush adds to the mix. Tall player. They may be thinking of putting some high balls in there in the sun.
Bunbury off the throw-in, tries to turn, but Lawless and Reyna combined defensively, but back on it now Mobilio. Dooley with a critical touch there, and Reyna with Dolan well out of his goal area, but at the edge of the box. Pulls it in with Wegerle in front. Little cat and mouse game there. We're not seeing the 6-second rule called as we did. Now we see it called. Or was it called?
I think
He
he may
did give
give
10 yards.
Give a warning to Wegerle.
Wegerle will get a card. He is not one of the U.S. players on the yellow, but he is now. 60th minute card for Roy Wegerle.
Well, obviously Dolan is a right-footed kicker and he wants to get it up, and you see Wegerle's position is preventing him from making a run and kick it. So I don't quite know what Wegerle thought. There's an offside flag up.
And they'll bring that back for the indirect free kick. Ty Keogh on the touchline. Ty.
Frank Yallop on the ball right now. The Canadian captain wearing number 2 plays for the Tampa Bay Mutiny in Major League Soccer. I talked to him before the game, and he knows that the Canadian team is always in the shadow of the USA in terms of CONCACAF and North American soccer. And he said there's no team they'd rather beat than the USA. There's no question that the Canadians feel a certain jealousy to the American players because of the situation in Major League Soccer. And they've battled hard, but they've started to fade here. Hopefully that's a good sign for the USA.
Well, part of that would be, Ty, also there were 3 players with the Revolution, 3 Canadian players who were released. Canadians don't count as Americans, and so that has to factor into the Canadian urge and Bob Lenarduzzi's desire to maybe get 3 or just 1 point today. But right now the U.S. is on top, and Lawless collects that. Dooley ahead. The United States in the lead with an eye on San Salvador as they play in British Columbia. And that's Eric Winalda with a separated shoulder. Saved by Paul Dolan. Corner kick USA.
Well, this is what we'd hope to see more of from Eric in this half. Those surging runs of his. And a good save by Paul Dolan. But it all started, frankly, with a great distribution by Tom Dooley, who didn't waste any time getting it to him. Look at this good cut across the defender inside Miller. And before Dasovic can get to him, he gets a rasping shot off.
Off the corner kick, played out, back onto Wegerle. Watched by Bunbury. Bernie Stewart now. Curling it into the box, looking for the header from Moore. Lifted out there by Ian Fraser. And into touch, so a throw-in for the United States.
Much more dangerous play by the U.S. now, Bob, at the moment, because there's a little bit of variety to it. Wegerle's doing a very good job pulling wide and getting himself open. And Eric Winalda right there is a guy who's picked up his game a bit, offensively speaking, in the second half.
Reyna wins the ball. He's got more to his right.
Trying to feed Winalda. Understandable that, too. But a defender, Watson, had taken up a good position.
Mike Burns with a good long ball, looking for Winalda down the wing. USA with the goal in the 5th minute as Lawless puts it wide. The goal by Claudio Reyna. Burns again, but not just a clearance with no one really in a position to make a run. In the 63rd minute. It's chilly in the shade. It is warm in the sun, but gradually you see the shadows, I would imagine by match's end, will obscure most of the right-hand side of the pitch, and the goal the USA is shooting at, attacking in this second half. Dasovic for Corazine. Carlo Corazine. Dooley got a touch, couldn't control it. Tackle there by Reyna. And a throw in for Canada.
This is much better team play by the U.S. now. They're getting players back into positions you didn't see. You don't see the domination of Canada in those midfield challenges the way we did in the first half.
Watson's throw into Bunbury. Take Lawless to the corner. The cross. Friedel touches it out.
Well, Friedel doing a very good piece of work here. This is a difficult ball. He knows he's got players all around and can't rely on catching it in situations like that, so he flicks it away to the opposite direction.
Cross again in front. Friedel couldn't get to it, but Burns tangling in front defensively.
Well, you see this cross coming in. He's backtracking here. He's backpedaling. And under some pressure, he decides he better just knock it away. And the second one, he comes forward, but this time it's Burnsy who cuts inside and cuts it away because Friedel actually lost his footing on the goal line as he came for that.
Colin Miller will take the corner kick. Friedel dealing with the Sun and the Canadian attack. They play it short. Miller tracked there by Wegerle. Colin Miller, nice move into the box, still on the ball. Corazine right on to Brad Friedel.
Two kind of weird caroms in a row there. But that's the kind of thing in a game like this could suddenly pop into the corner of the net.
The goal came early from the U.S., and frankly, after that point, they did not look like the well-oiled machine they did against Mexico last week. They've looked better in the second half, but Canada now controlling the play the last few possessions here. Balboa makes
that was a
trouble.
ball for Friedel, and I think Jello, just a little bit uncertain, decided to hammer it out to midfield. U.S., as you can see, across the field defensively in midfield, doing a better job now. That ball looked like it was handled by Winalda.
Tuesday at 7:30, Colorado and the Red Wings. The last two Stanley Cup winners head-to-head on ESPN. National Hockey Night. Right now, National Soccer Pride on the line for the United States. Winalda, and now Wegerle comes through and with a good right-footed lead. Joe Max Moore. Joe Max Moore. He's got Ernie Stewart coming down the opposite wing. Joe Max Moore. Oh, a touch from behind, and there's Dolan to gobble it up.
Well, Joe Max's problem was that he had some players in front of him, and Stewart was sort of on the wrong side of them, and he was too far away. Stewart was trying to give him a wide passing option, but he needed a little bit of closer.
Jamaica has taken the lead, 2-1 on El Salvador. Big news. Garrett Kush now in the corner. So Jamaica leading at El Salvador. The U.S. trying to hold on to this lead. Alex Bunbury with a high ball into the box. And now Stewart lifts it up. That is a major number for the USA. Steve Sampson has just been told that by Clive Charles, seated next to him on the bench. Lawless commits that foul, winning the ball, at least in the eyes of the referee, Toro Rendon.
That's a very tough call. Lawless is being held. Well, they're both holding each other. Defenders and attackers hold each other, but it looked to me like he got a bit of a rough break on that one, spinning away from the hold and getting the header in.
10 minutes left in San Salvador, with Jamaica leading. Considerably more time remaining here, so the USA will know the scenario down to the last detail as they try and close out this match. Steve Sampson knows that score. Bunbury will be over the ball. Claudio left is what Brad Friedel is yelling. Bunbury touches. Miller deflected and blocked by Eric Winalda, who is giving up his body for his country today.
Terrific challenge by Winalda. Great challenge, and Winalda will be coming out, or maybe not.
That's a Canadian substitution is being readied, I believe.
Well, they touch it to the right here to try to clear the wall. That's the point of this, to get it past the wall. But the last player comes off the wall. It's Winalda. He dives in and caroms off his ankle, and away it goes.
Nick Dazovic leaves. Jeff Onger comes on, the number 14 player for Canada. Winalda, who just blocked that shot. Burns to his left. Eric Winalda, shot save. Paul Dolan. 68th minute here, at least the 81st minute in San Salvador. This is the tension of World Cup qualifying when it gets down to the very end. Toby Jones will be coming on shortly as a substitute for the United States. Dominic Mobilio on the ball. Number 7, Alex Bunbury. Kush. Garrett Kush against Mike Burns. Burnsy with a tackle. Winalda gets a touch. And Winalda with the same sort of desire and hustle he showed last week against Mexico.
Loose at the edge of the box, lifted in by Mobilio. Mobilio saved by Brad Friedel. Dominic Mobilio as Corazine put him in.
Well, a narrow escape there for the U.S., and that's when the one-goal lead is all. It looks so precarious, but not able to get as much on that as he wanted, Dominic Mobilio.
20 shots in this match. And we have had the opportunities both ways in the 70th minute. Kobe Jones will be coming on for Eric Winalda, who played 70 minutes last weekend in Mexico City and plays 70 minutes today in the left side midfield slot in Burnaby.
Well, Kobe Jones, of course, can play right or left side, as he has done many times for the U.S. And Eric Winalda, what a great hard-working effort. Unlucky for him, he wasn't able to finish with a goal because he made a terrific bursting, surging run through the midfield and almost scored it. Fine effort by Eric Winalda.
Taikio.
Winalda's selfless effort entered the second half with the injection in his shoulder to be able to play and even be involved. He nearly scored on a long-range shot and then blocked a shot here just moments ago on the free kick. So selfless play by Winalda. Hopefully it'll end up with a result for the USA to go to the World Cup in France,
which may yet happen today.
Well, U.S. now falling back into their bad habits of the first half, which is to give the ball away in midfield. It's been happening now with regularity in the last few minutes. It looks so good when they surround each other and help each other get out of jams. When they try individually, they sometimes get dispossessed and commit fouls under pressure.
Jeff Onger on the free kick, lifting it into the box. Header down by Corazine, out of bounds, over the byline. And again, the high ball, tactical and also solar, if you will.
Here's DeVos. I think he's the player who comes around the back here. Great jump to try to win that. It wasn't DeVos in the end, who was looked like it might have been Dasovic, but very good challenging jump.
32 touches, 3 shots, and 5 other chances created by Eric Winalda, who is now the left side midfielder of the U.S. national team. All the talk all year of finding him a partner at forward. But now, the last 2 matches, he's played very well at left midfield. Mobilio, Dominic Mobilio, trying to tee up the shot against Balboa, who just very deftly gets the touch. Dooley gets it to Reyna. The United States looking to qualify for France, stolen out of his penalty area to put it away from Ernie Stewart. Inside, as we say, must be now the last 5 minutes in San Salvador. The last report we had was at the 80-minute mark, with Jamaica leading 2-1.
Well, you saw Ernie Stewart there making a break down the right side, and they could not just sort of overhit the ball to him by Claudio Reyna. But that's where he's so dangerous, is that burst of speed out of the right side of midfield.
Well, if there is another goal in this match, it will really define the U.S. future. It will either put this game away or set up a possible draw. Push. Back to Onger, looking for Push. And there's Lawless taking a shove from behind for Mobilio, and the foul against Mobilio in the 73rd minute now.
Well, pictures tell the words there, I think, pretty easily. He had done a good job getting inside, and Mobilio just plows into him from behind.
Wallace has done a nice job today on Bunbury when they have matched up. Bunbury in midfield has been creative, but there's Kobe Jones playing it wide. Joe Max Moore. Cleaned out by Fraser. Touched by Cush in the midfield, waiting for some support. An offside ball for Alex Bunbury, who is clearly a stride ahead of the play.
Well, Alexi Lalas let this man Bunbury go. He decided to let him go. He pulled up. Everybody pulled up with Alexi Lalas, so Bunbury clearly was offside.
First offside for Canada.
But he's been dangerous, Alex Bunbury. He has not gotten in for shots on goal, but he receives the ball so well. He's got very good technique on the ball.
Back heel by Wegerle. Kobe Jones with a ball. Stewart's in front. Blocked by Fraser.
What a great ball from Kobe Jones over the top. And this man, Ernie Stewart, has really made an impact since he came on. Decides not to go for a head here, but a volley. And he struck it beautifully, but Fraser with good defense.
2-2. El Salvador has come back inside the last 10 minutes, but still a draw for Jamaica would serve the U.S. well. What a match, what an atmosphere at that pitch, I would imagine. Joe Max right on to Paul Nolan. Well, there has been incredible play today around CONCACAF. Mexico taking a 2-0 lead and drawing 3-3 at home with Costa Rica. And you must wonder what old friend Bora Milutinovic, what his fate, what pressure will build on him, even though Mexico have qualified. And Jamaica and El Salvador right now sitting 2-2, approaching the final whistle. Well, a tie from Jamaica will do it because Mexico drew with Costa Rica. See, Eddie Pope seemed to gesture towards his right hamstring. I know he's got a little twinge there. As DeVos went up for that ball and is whistled for the foul. Free kick USA in the 75th minute. Chasing DeVos.
Uh-oh.
Here comes a card. Card for Ernie Stewart.
Now it's a...
2 cards.
Well, that means Ernie Stewart
will not play
will not
against
play.
El Salvador,
No.
which at this moment still is not an academic match. So in the 75th minute, Stewart and Mobilio get cards. Free kick for the United States. Reyna bending it in. Kobe Jones from long distance, well wide to the right of Paul Dolan.
Wow, well, that's a bad blow for the U.S. to lose Ernie Stewart, but if they can hold on for 14.5 minutes here, it won't mean that much because the U.S. will have qualified for France, provided it stays 2-2 down in El Salvador. Are you still with me? All the permutations are kind of mind-boggling.
Well,
the most important thing, though, for the U.S. is simply to win this game.
And that is still in question, even though they lead. Another goal would lift a ton of pressure off their chest right now. Of course, Ernie Stewart, if the game at Boston next week in Foxborough is academic, will serve the yellow card suspension. It's still not clear whether FIFA will wipe the slate clean of yellow card suspensions. To start, France 98. Bunbury with Reyna. Colin Miller. Joe Max Sport comes back to win that ball. That's his afternoon in a nutshell. And a long ball to Roy Wegerle.
Great run by Wegerle.
Stewart's coming down the middle. Kobe Jones as well. Roy Wegerle. Corner kick as DeVos deflected it out. RPM tonight, television's first daily program devoted to racing, and it comes your way Sundays at 8 Eastern on ESPN2. Wegerle won't take the corner kick. Claudio Reyna will. Well, also burn some time off the clock.
And of course, Canada is still trying to get back into this game, so they are going to press people forward. You see the corner kick's pretty obviously dead even. But that'll give some opportunities for wide attacks, and the U.S. have looked much better now in their wide play in this second half.
Reyna, headed by Onger, then by Watson. Pope chasing with Onger, and commits the foul. 78th minute. And we await a final score from San Salvador. The 1 goal for the U.S. Wegerle and Moore assisting that man, Claudio Reyna.
And Reyna has done also a very good job in distributing. He's gotten caught a couple of times in possession, but apart from that, he's done a very solid job in midfield. And has had some remarkably creative runs, too. He always seems to be around the ball. There's a nice little soft pass out to set Kobe Jones going.
2 minutes to go in San Salvador. 2 minutes in Central America. And that is over the byline. Corner kick, U.S.
Good challenge by Watson there. Good safe tackle to win a little bit of relief for his team. But it's still just a 1-goal lead for the U.S. here.
Joe Max Moore looking for a target. Player plays it low to Wegerle. Joe Max back into the box. And put out. But the U.S. in possession now with more flow and cohesion. More from long distance blocked down there by Yallop. Reyna chasing in the corner. And finally, Dolan tries to start a counterattack for Canada. Still mathematically alive at this moment. And that may be foreclosed. It is a final. It is a final from San Salvador. Jamaica with the point. There is just one tumbler left to fall into place. Kobe Jones. Kobe Jones right onto Dolan. One more thing must occur for the U.S. to go to France, and it will happen right here. If it happens today, it would be a U.S. victory. Mexico drawing with Costa Rica. Jamaica has drawn with El Salvador. If the U.S. wins, the next stop is Marseille for the draw.
Well, it's again, lots of counterattacking possibilities. Here comes Stewart, but they don't get the ball to him fast enough, and it's offside, or could have been offside, but instead a free kick for the U.S. Tom Dooley on that last attack. Tom Dooley was the player supporting Kobe Jones. Kobe Jones has got terrific speed, but Tom Dooley still has the legs to come up for an 80th minute run. He nervously pacing there.
Edge of the box. There it is. There is France. And they know it.
Roy Wegerle.
Next stop, Marseille.
Roy Wegerle, the man who sat on the bench for DC United in the MLS Cup final. Here he is for his national team, putting some oil on the road to France. Again, Claudio Reyna. What a brilliant game. What a soft chip over the top, beautifully run onto, and nicely put away by Wegerle. Up goes his hand in the air, and fellas, start packing your bags, because the U.S. is headed for France.
Of course, it's not officially over yet.
Nope.
But the two-goal lead, with Mobilio taking a shoulder charge there from Pope. We play on, though. Roy Wegerle, who was called back into the national team for the match with Costa Rica, started also against Jamaica. His international career resuscitated late in qualification, has put the U.S. on top, and he's on the ball again. He's got Stewart making a run, crisscrossing with him. Ernie Stewart, that's onside. Ernie Stewart, saved by Paul Dolan.
Well, Ernie Stewart, if you remember, scored a great goal with about 7 or 8 minutes to go against Canada to make it 3-0 in Palo Alto. And this time he had almost as good a chance, but Dolan does very well here. Give the keeper credit. Coming out, Paul Dolan. But Stewart knows he should have put that one away. But it's a little bit academic. It's tough for Ernie. That's a tough miss, and he also knows, of course, he's going to miss a game on the yellow, but maybe that doesn't matter to him, really.
Flicked by Dooley, and he's fouled to a free kick now for the U.S. deep in the Canadian end in the 82nd minute. What a professional, wearing the armband. The players were asked to give a word of the day when they were training in Big Bear. Thomas's word was togetherness.
Well, here he is, 82nd minute, still surging forward to support a throw-in, and he's a defensive midfielder.
Reyna. Dolan pulls it in. So it's a final in San Salvador. Jamaica 2, El Salvador 2. And if this result holds, the U.S. are going to France. Challenge, not whistle. No, we play on. Onger. Burns chasing in the corner with Kush.
Of course, as a result,
throwing for the U.S. Well, the Yanks are coming to France. 7.5 minutes to go. Not official yet, not a done deal, but it looks really good. And Ty Keogh, who's on the touchline, will be down there in the celebration if that occurs. Thorazine comes back for the ball. Burns, who's played a steady game, gets it ahead now to Joe Max Moore, looking to lead, square it off to Jones, but Canada back on it.
There's a good win of the ball.
Reyna comes back, and Stewart tracking all the way back, and Friedel picks it up.
Well, give Burns some credit, as you did, Bob, because he has played a first-rate positional game at the back. He hasn't gone forward that much. You see him on the ball now, Burnsy, but he has done an excellent job in that kind of disciplined defensive play they wanted.
The chip pulled down off Joe Max Moore's foot by Paul Dolan.
What a great ball put through. Joe Max got to question why he let it go so early. Again, who else? Claudio Reyna. What an absolutely perfect ball. He could take this another stride if he wanted to, but he saw the keeper out a good 8 yards, so he decided to go over the top. Obviously, Canada pushing people forward, trying to get something out of this game.
Bush puts it in. Friedel pulls it down on a bounce. He's still waiting to hear Brad Friedel about a work permit to play with Liverpool. The English bureaucracy is legendary. He's losing a little bit of confidence that that may come to fruition, but he'll pick up another cap today. Canada looking desperately to put one past Friedel, picked off there by Balboa. Well, the U.S. was the host nation in '94. They had the automatic bid. The challenge there was getting the team ready, and indeed they were ready through the first round to play a respectable second-round match with Brazil. This time, nothing given. It started way back last fall, a year ago, against Guatemala, a brutally physical match at RFK Stadium. There were high moments like Costa Rica, the home match in Portland. There were low moments like Jamaica, the home draw. This may be the defining moment in Burnaby.
Well, they've also gotten a bit of a break, too, in this sun that we talked about. It never was taken advantage of by Canada. It's now not so much a problem for Friedel. They never launched much in the way of a series of high balls. And Balboa has done a good job.
Bunbury in the box. There's Friedel. Standing in what little sunlight remains on that quadrant of the pitch.
Solid play by the back four. Joe Max worked very hard for the U.S. And the midfield eventually got itself on track by playing the ball wide and finding the spaces and stretching the Canadian defense a lot more than they had done in the first half.
Ernie Stewart, who's been so effective since coming on, is back on that ball. Playing for the corner with Mark Watson. Joe Max Moore in support. And here comes Frank Yallop out of his head. Bunbury with a touch. There's Kobe Jones.
And a great defensive run by Claudio Reyna. He's got to be the man of the match, Claudio Reyna, without any question. Scored a goal and an assist and all that stuff in the statistic sheets, but that really doesn't matter. He has just been, to me anyhow, he's been the dominant player, distributing the ball, keeping things calm, and doing great defensive work for the USA as a total team midfielder should do.
Well, we mentioned the USA was the host in '94. They had to qualify in '90. At this time, Paul Caligiuri's goal was called the shot heard around the world.
Well, I was there calling that game.
1989.
And it was a phenomenal moment. And the U.S. then had to hold on for a long time, a full second half after that.
And Paul is dressed and on the bench today for the U.S. And the U.S. with the goals from Wegerle and Reyna today will add those moments today to the pictorial history of U.S. soccer.
Well, qualifying soccer is not easy. No matter who your opponents are, there are tough games. I mean, you can ask any number of European teams about the tough matches they have on the road against lesser-known teams. And in this region, there's no easy game. But this is only the second game in the entire series of CONCACAF Round 2 that would be an away victory. There's going to be only one away victory so far, as we showed you a minute ago. It's very tough to win on the road.
What a match for Reyna. We're in the 88th minute as Lawless lifts it ahead, looking for the front-running Joe Max Moore. The counterattack, Corazine, but Balboa puts it away. Well, the U.S. stands to do something. Now, admittedly, we will say the U.S. is a middle-class soccer power, and qualifying in Europe is very different and very difficult. But they will do what England couldn't do, what Germany couldn't do, which is qualify before the last qualifying match.
And that's a good achievement for them. It looked like it was something within their grasp, but then the wheels seemed to go off a little bit with the Jamaica match, but they rallied magnificently against Mexico. I mean, that's a phenomenal result in Mexico.
Jamaica's tie today means they will qualify with a victory or a tie against Mexico next Sunday. El Salvador has to beat the USA and hope for a Jamaica loss and then qualify in goal differential. So for those nations, it remains complicated. For the United States, it's simple. There are 2 minutes left, and then you can start packing.
A great job by Wegerle coming back there, all the way back, winning it,
So Max Moore, as Jones is in the box. Lifted out by Fraser. Mobilio with a head.
There's Claudio Reyna
Again, taking it away from Colin Miller. There's Wegerle. Thomas Dooley. And those Americans that have crossed the border. With Thomas Dooley down in a heat now.
He got kicked from behind by number 17, Gareth Cush.
Pope low for that header.
Terrible late challenge on Dooley late in the game.
Medical attention now for the captain in the 90th minute. With injury time to be added on. How much? We had a lot, almost 4 full minutes in the first half.
Well, Dooley, the captain, has been an inspirational leader today.
Winalda playing with a separated shoulder. Reyna's early goal. Wegerle's opportunistic flash in this second half. And that man's sense of leadership with John Hart sitting out a red card suspension. He'll be 37 when the United States play in France. And a job by Eric Winalda today. Still favoring that shoulder. As we approach injury time and the final whistle. And for Steve Sampson, who has heard the talk about his job, who heard Alan Rothenberg say, and Alan will tell you that it's no different than when he first hired Steve. Waldo's ready for the celebration, that there will be a coaching review after qualification. But Steve Sampson has gotten this team to France. Whether he coaches them there remains to be seen. You would like to think he'll get strong consideration.
Well, we're into the dreaded mystery called injury time, or time added for injury treatment.
Friedel is out.
Offside.
Offside. That was not the final whistle.
Well, I have to say, if Mexico was the golden point, then these got to be the parlez-vous points, because
C'est vrai, mon ami. It's very true, my friend. And
the crowd has picked it up.
We await the final whistle. December 4th, ESPN will have live coverage of the draw, preceded by live coverage of the World All-Star match. Europe, the European qualifiers against the rest of the world qualifiers. The entire American bench is up. Cricky, naturalized citizen, who came on in the Guatemala match as his first cap adorned in the stars and stripes.
Well, the U.S. has never qualified in its home country. We have to win these matches on the road. In Trinidad, we just show you here in Canada, winning it. And of course, the match in El Salvador, in Boston next week.
Tab Ramos watching this match at home. We wish him a speedy recovery from his knee surgery. The U.S. hoping he will be match fit and rehab from his ACL injury for France.
Oh boy, here's a card for Claudio Reyna.
And Reyna draws the card.
That was a silly card on his part.
He's not on a yellow, so he can play against El Salvador. But the U.S. will probably not risk anyone sitting on a yellow to play. Eddie Pope will carry it out of trouble and then let Kobe Jones lift it up for Joe Max Moore. Looking onside. Wegerle. There it is. If there was any doubt, the last scintilla has been erased.
Well, if the referee is going to add on extra time like this, in an incredible way, he keeps adding more and more minutes, then you might as well score something. What the heck? You're going to play some more, you might as well get another goal. It looked very offside, I have to be honest. It looked way offside.
What satisfaction for that man. What satisfaction for Sam's Army. Some of these fans have come from as far as the Bay Area of California.
Wegerle made the late run in, and he could have been kept on because of that, but it looked very offside from up here. But hey, it's all academic.
The USA have done it. A transcendent moment. Wegerle 2 goals. Sholey, Soskic, the goalkeeping coach. Vindication, exhilaration for Steve Sampson.
Frecky has got to be so happy. This is a guy who's played soccer in Europe and indoors a lot. He's always wanted to play in the World Cup. Now it's his chance.
Alan Rothenberg, Hank Steinbrecher, Sunil Gulati of the Federation.
And the team goes to greet Sam's Army, which is so appropriate for these super fans. I hope we'll see them in France.
We're going to save that picture of Alan Rothenberg and Hank Steinbrecher hugging Steve Sampson. And we'll use it when the decision is made about who brings this team to France. And the U.S. team wants to say thank you. Ty Keogh will have interviews from the pitch. What a moment. At the far end of Swangard Stadium, Roy Wegerle said to Steve Sampson, "Thank you for calling me into this team." And he has rewarded Steve Sampson with 2 goals today. We will step aside for a moment. We have so much more. The celebration. The USA are going to France. 3-0 over Canada.
Hey.
Nothing the final. The important result, the 3 points. Ty Keogh standing by with Steve Sampson.
Steve Sampson, incredible relief. The USA, Eric Winalda, big celebration here. It really all started in Mexico. What a performance by your team there. It carried on to get you to France at the World Cup.
That's true. These guys played with a lot of character in Mexico and here today. I think they did exactly what they needed to do. They kept their calm. They scored some great goals. So happy for Roy Wegerle. He's been away from the national team for so long. To come back and score 2 great goals like that, I'm very happy for him.
Was there ever any doubt in your mind throughout qualifying that the U.S. would make it to the World Cup in France?
No, there was never doubt in my mind. Obviously, we always want to play better each and every day and each and every game, and we're going to get better. We're so happy right now that we have qualified. We're going to enjoy this moment, and starting in January, we'll work towards France in June.
How about Eric Winalda? He came up with some big defensive plays for you in the last couple of games.
I'll tell you, it's been the key in the last 2 games. Eric in Mexico played incredibly well, not only offensively but defensively, and he showed it again today. You know, that's a part of his game that he hasn't been known for. But he's proven that he is a much more complete player than people think he is.
Thank you, Steve. Congratulations. A great performance to finish it off. The USA goes to the World Cup in France. We'll have Eric Winalda here in a second. Back up to you, Bob.
Okay, thanks, Ty. It is a moment down below with the United States players celebrating and thanking their fans. 14 points for the USA. Technically, it's still possible for the U.S. to catch Mexico. So who would have thunk that? Let's get back down to Ty.
We need you now. Now.
Ty Keogh standing by with Eric Winalda, who scored the first, I should say, did not crack the net today, but played with that separated shoulder.
Eric Winalda, you managed to avoid the yellow card, which I think was in question. Steve Sampson was very worried about that. Talked to you a lot during the game in the first half.
Yeah, there was a couple instances in there where I could have gotten in trouble, but you know, we all tried to keep our heads out there and make sure that if this game we had to go to the next game, that we'd all be available. So. What
about that left midfield slot for you coming back? I mean, you might have been the defender of the game today.
I don't know about that. I think we all did a great job today, but you know, I had to step in when Ernie got injured before the Mexico game. I thought I had a good game down in Mexico, and I stayed in this position. Got to do what you got to do to help team.
A nice block defensively on a Canadian free kick, but then you also played the second half with the injection in the shoulder that you separated in the first half.
Yeah, I got taken down on a play in the first half. My shoulder popped out, but had it injected. I mean, it's all or nothing today, so we got the result we needed, and we're going to France. That's all that matters.
You've been taking those French lessons?
I would live there for a while. I don't know a word, but I'm going to have to start reading, that's for sure.
Thanks, Eric. Congratulations to the USA. They go to the World Cup in France. Back up to you, Bob.
Thank you, Ty. Next week, USA and El Salvador. Very important match for El Salvador. And ABC Sports coverage begins at 2 o'clock Eastern Time of the final week of qualification. Stand by now on ESPN2. Next up, boxing, the hit list. What an afternoon here in Burnaby, British Columbia. Claudio Reyna in the 5th minute. Roy Wegerle scoring twice. As the USA qualifying for France, scoring early, scoring often, and moving along into the field of 32. For Ty Keogh and Seamus Mallon, I'm Bob Lee. This game, a production of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. We've got the draw on December 4th from Marseille and the World Cup next year, and the USA are going to France.